Hi, this is Tammy with Life Began in a Garden, and in today's video, we will be discussing lavender. We will be making a lavender honey, lavender infused honey, and also a lavender sachet. All the information that I will be discussing with you today is in my book. So that's what you're seeing right now. It's just a handmade book that I put together and did a couple pages on each thing that I want to discuss or that I want to pass on to future generations. So I'm kind of scanning over everything so that you can see it. And if I did not give you enough time to read each label that's in the book, then just freeze it long enough to read it. Or it's something you can go back to later if you need to look at something again. I also will be going over some of this as I go through this video. So if you missed it here, you will most likely catch it again later in the video. So the first thing that we will be making today is the lavender infused honey. This one is very simple to make. It only requires 2 ingredients, and that is the dried lavender and raw honey. It's best if you can get your honey locally, because then you have the benefit of the fact that the honey was made by bees who are collecting their pollen from the same things that are in the air, which helps you with your allergies. So here I would like to say life is not a matter of counting years. It's a matter of making years count. That's very important. It's important that you make the years of your life count and that you pass that information on to your family and future generations. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm just using a jelly jar to infuse my honey in, or infuse the lavender in the honey. And that's my jar of dried lavender. You do need to make sure that the lavender is dried. Honey is very sensitive to water being added into it, and you can ruin your whole jar of honey by doing that. So I use 2 heaping teaspoons of the lavender buds, and I just put those in the jar first. And then I pour the honey in until it's full, and I stir it as I'm pouring it in. So while we're doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the honey that has been infused with lavender. Raw honey has historically been known to heal wounds and help with digestion and soothe a sore throat. It has many benefits on its own. It's anti-inflammatory, it's an antioxidant, antibacterial, and antifungal. If you use raw local honey, it helps with your immune system to pollen in your area. There are also numerous vitamins and minerals in raw honey. This barely touches on the many benefits of using raw diet. I do want to say that no one knows your body like you do, so always do your research before including anything new into your diet. Also start with small amounts to see how it affects you. And if you're on any medication, check with your doctor first. Herbs are nature's medicine, and they can interfere with pharmaceutical medicines. Also, lavender is well known for its calming effect and can help to ease stress, anxiety, rheumatism, and insomnia. But do use with caution if you're taking medication for high blood pressure, as it may cause it to drop too low. Do not consume lavender if you are taking a sedative. Okay, so the honey and lavender are just going to sit on the shelf and infuse, and it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks at least for that to infuse. What I did not show here is that I did put a label on that with what is in that jar and the date that I made it. I'll show you that later in the video. So now we're going on to making the sachet. And what I'm doing here is using a stamp. I'm actually at my sister's shop, but you probably recognize that mat there. And I'm using one of her stamps and a Stays-On ink pad, and just stamping on the top of that piece of material. That's just 100% cotton, cut to the measurements that it shows in the book. I'll make sure that I go over that again with you. And then I'm just stamping, that's French writing, and I'm just stamping that on there because the little lavender iron-on transfer is in French, so I just kind of wanted them to go together better. And then I'll also stamp it on that little cardboard thing that I'm going to put on top of the bag, which is what I'm doing there. So the sachets are really good to use if you want to hang them in your closet or tuck one in a drawer, or you can place it in your nightstand or under your pillow for a relaxing night's sleep. I know that everybody by now knows about lavender and knows the benefits of it and the calming effect that it has, which is also why you need to be careful if you take it internally and you're already on a sedative. It can make you even more drowsy. It can also slow your heart rate, so just be careful with it if you are currently taking a sedative. So the part that I'm doing here is packaging it because we sell these in my sister's shop. So this part is not something you have to do or would even need to do if you're not making it as a gift, but it does make a nice presentation if you are making it as a gift. So I printed out these labels on my computer. You can do however you want to do with yours. You can just get some lavender print and use that for the top. Here I am ironing on the transfer, ironing it onto that piece of material that I stamped. The iron-on transfer came from the Graphics Fairy. It's a free one that's on there, so you can just go there and print it off, and you would need iron-on transfer paper to print it onto. So this is what it looks like once it's been ironed on. And now what I'm going to do is add the back part. And so of course the iron-on transfer needs to be on the inside because all of this, once it's sewn, is going to get turned wrong side or right side out. And in this section I am putting some drops of lavender. I think I put 5 or 6 drops of lavender on that batting material there. And the reason for that is that it is going to go inside the lavender bag as well as lavender buds going in there. So you just put however many you want. 5 or 6 is what I use, but you can use whatever you want, the amount. But you need to go ahead and do that and then set it aside so that it kind of infuses into the batting and it's not still wet when you put it inside your bag. And this is the inside bag that I'm going to be using to put the batting and the lavender in. And it is the Warm and Natural. I'm sure you've heard my sister Lisa talk about Warm and Natural a lot. We use it a lot at the shop. But it's 100% cotton, and that's why I'm using it. And what I'm doing there is sewing around both sides and the bottom. And I'm going to leave the top open so that I can put that in. So If you chose to use all lavender buds and not use the cotton, you can do that. Or if you don't have lavender buds and you want to just put cotton in there with the essential oil, you can do that. Also, there's other scents that you can use. If you don't really care for lavender and you would like to use some other scent, then make it with whatever scent that you want. And there's many ways to use it, and also as giving for a gift. Okay, so on this part, once I get those strings taken care of, then I just open it up like that. And I'm going to stuff about half of the batting in there first. I'm showing there that it is lavender essential oil that I used. So I'm going to stuff about half of the batting in there first. And then once that's in there, then I'll put the lavender buds in, and I just used like a heaping teaspoonful, and then more batting. So there are, like I said, many ways that you could do this, and you do not have to have the iron-on transfer. You could just use a lavender color fabric. You can write on the label or type it out, however you want to do it. But like I said, we're just doing it this way because we do sell them in the shop. So once you have everything in there that needs to be in there, then just kind of push the lavender buds down in it some so that they're not in the way of sewing. And you put it back on your machine and sew it closed. I ended up having to change out the sewing machine that I was using because that one kept, the tension kept messing up on it. So at some point you will see that the sewing machine changes to an older model sewing machine, which is the one I use at home. Once the tension messes up on this one, it's just really hard to fix it. I think it didn't like the Warm and Natural batting material. So there's where I switched it out and used my machine. And then there I'm going to finish sewing that up to close up the top of it. For your lavender buds, I did not mention before that it's best if you can get organically grown lavender. I grow my own at home. If you don't grow it, then there are places you can order it. You can find it on Etsy. Just make sure that it says that it is organically grown. And while we're speaking about lavender, another way of using lavender is to put it in your laundry. You can wrap it up in a handkerchief and tie it tightly, and then just toss that in your clothes dryer. And then your clothes will come out smelling like the soothing smell of lavender. And that makes it really great for using with your bedding. Okay, so here I'm putting together the outside of the lavender sachet. So make sure that you have wrong sides together. And I just line it up with the right edge of the pressure foot on the sewing machine, and that's about the seam allowance that I have. So for the little packet that you put inside there, I didn't give you the measurements on that, but you just need to cut it so that it's at least a 1/2 inch to 1 inch smaller than the sachet cover that you're going to be making, so that it will fit down in there. I think I used about a 1/2 inch less in both directions so that it would fit in there the way I needed it to. Also, do make sure you do your back stitch there. Okay, so then here you just turn it. Well, I'm clipping off the corners, and I'm going to trim a little bit on the bottom because it was a little bit of a overhang. I just wanted to get rid of the extra material. and then you turn it right side out. So while you watch me do that, I'm going to go over the materials needed again. So the cotton material, it needs to be cut 6 by 4, and you need to cut 2 of them. The dried lavender petals is approximately 1 teaspoon. The lavender essential oil, I have written down that it's approximately 10 drops, but I didn't use that much on that one that you saw me do. Make sure your thread matches your material that you're using. The warm and natural cotton batting with a very small amount. Cotton stuffing or cotton balls. And that's to infuse the lavender essential oil into. And then a ribbon to match your material. Mine was approximately 6 inches long. And you will need an iron and the iron-on transfer paper if you're using a transfer image. And when you watched me do that, I just used an old book page over the over the transfer image so that the iron would not melt the image. So you can use, don't use wax paper, but you can use freezer paper. You can use a brown paper bag, newspaper. Anything like that doesn't have a shiny finish to it, to lay down on top of your image while you're ironing it. And it only takes a few seconds, maybe 10 seconds to get that ironed on there. So here I'm turning down the top part, and that's so that I have a seam there or an area to sew the seam and enclose all the raw edges in there. And then I will be adding my, I had to get up and go get it, but adding my little strip of ribbon. That's just a little satin ribbon piece that I'm putting on there. And you just tuck it down into the bag, the bottom part of it. Just make sure you've got it in there enough that the stitches are going to catch it when you sew, and try to center it. And if you're making one and you know that you're not going to be hanging it, then this is a step that you could skip. You don't necessarily have to do that. Or if you would like to hang it in your car, which is also an option, then I would put something that has some elasticity to it so that you can stretch it and get it over your rearview mirror. Or leave the ends open so you can tie it up there. But it would also make a really nice thing to use in your car to keep the car smelling fresh. Okay, so I'm just going to let you watch while I finish up doing that. And I'm going to talk to you about growing your own lavender. So lavender needs full sun and light. It needs well-drained, slightly alkaline soil. Make sure that it can drain well, and if you're doing it in an area that doesn't drain well, then add a layer of coarse sand or gravel to the planting hole, and that will help it to drain. It really doesn't like to get its feet wet, so pay attention to that. Also, just feed and water sparingly. It doesn't require a whole lot of either one of those. The bees love the lavender, so when it comes time to collect your lavender buds, you're going to be competing with the bees because they're, from daylight to dark it seems, they're on it collecting their pollen. When you do harvest it for drying, just make sure that you can use either buds that have just opened or that are in full bloom, either way. And dry in a cool, airy spot out of the sun. Also, make sure that you, if you're going to hang it, you have something under it to catch the buds because they fall constantly. And for that reason, I think it's probably better just to lay it somewhere and let it dry that way. And here I'm showing you the honey that has been infused with lavender and the label. So on there, I've just got it on there with a hairband just to hold the label there until it's time to strain it. I do hope you've enjoyed my video. I hope that you will try some of this, and even if you don't try some of this, I hope you do start recording your life a little bit, things that you've learned throughout life that you would like to pass on to your children or great-grandchildren, or just mankind in general. And even for yourself, you know, as we get older, we forget things. My memory is not nearly as good as it used to be. So having this written down, when I go back to make something again, I have the directions there in case I did forget measurements or something, or ingredients needed. I do hope that you will record your life somehow. This is kind of more like a junk journal, I guess, but informative. So I did it this way because it's kind of fun, and I like to make things fun so that they don't seem like work. And I'm much more likely to do it if it's fun and if I can make it cute or whatever. So anyway, that's why I do it. This is the lavender at my shop. Thank you, and may God bless you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope you continue to come back for future videos.